Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church in Columbia, South Carolina, where we're part of the ELCA. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. When I was in Israel 25 years ago, I bought many gifts to bring back to people at home. One of the things I got for myself was a Jewish prayer shawl. Observant Jews wear this shawl, particularly on festivals and at worship, but it can be worn anytime and all the time. In fact, some think that when Jesus says to go into your closet and pray where no one can see, he may have been saying to take your prayer shawl and cover your entire head with it. Closing it over your face is like closing the door, and it would shut out worldly distractions. The shawl is unusual because in each corner there are tied tassels called tzitzit. Here is my prayer shawl, and you can see the fringe on the bottom and the tzitzit here in the corner. They are made up of a number of threads and knots and windings that, when added up, come to a total of 613, the same number of laws written in the Old Testament. In that way, the shawl reminded them of who they are and who they are supposed to be. Even more, in those days, before numerals, letters of the alphabet were given numerical value. Think Roman numerals, for example. If you needed to write a number, you expressed it with the appropriate letter. In fact, there's a thing called gematria where you can take the letters of a word and figure out its number based on those letters. Well, in the tzitzit, there are 39 wrappings of thread. And in gematria, the number 39 is the exact value of the Shema, the core of Jewish faith that says, the Lord is one. Someday, perhaps, I'll show you more about my prayer shawl and tell you more about it and its meaning. This week we are looking at hope through the particular lens of women in the Bible who lived in hope. Today, let's talk about the woman with the issue of blood. This is a fascinating story from the Gospels. As a leader of the synagogue's 12-year-old daughter is ill and dying. Her father, a man named Jairus, came to Jesus to ask for healing for his daughter. As Jesus began to go with him, a woman with an ongoing issue of blood touched his garment, and Jesus stopped, aware that power had gone out from him. The woman had been healed and made herself known. Alas, however, the delay with this woman meant that Jairus' daughter died. Jesus went and raised her back to life. Now, that was a brief summary because I suspect you are familiar with the events in that story. What you may not realize is some of the other things that are going on, particularly with that woman with the issue of blood. Her illness would have been one of exclusion, and it had been going on for a long time. The gospel writers tell us that she had been suffering from this for 12 years, and the doctors had been unable to stop the bleeding in all that time. The thing was, according to Old Testament laws, a woman was considered ritually unclean during her menstrual cycle. This woman had been experiencing an ongoing bleeding for 12 years. For 12 years, she was herself ritually unclean. Because of that, she couldn't go to the temple. She couldn't go to the synagogue, and she really wasn't supposed to be out in society where she might touch anyone else. She is isolated and alone. You can get a sense of her desperation in how she broke the rules and entered the mob surrounding Jesus. You also get a sense of her hope in Jesus, too. She didn't dare draw any attention to herself, thinking that if she could just touch the fringe of his clothes, she might be healed. So she sneaked up through the crowd to near Jesus and surreptitiously reached out and brushed her fingers on his clothes. Suddenly, she was indeed healed. Now, as we think about the hope she had, we need to note that it wasn't a passive hope. She didn't stay home just helplessly wishing for something to happen. Rather, she took action. Hope sometimes calls for action on our part, even when the odds seem impossible. She broke all the rules on an outside chance that her hope for healing could be fulfilled. And as Jesus then tells her, her faith had made her well. What a miraculous difference in her life. Once more she can re-enter society. Once more she can be around family and friends. Once more she can worship God fully among God's people. Her hope of healing also brought restoration. Finally, something you may never have thought about. Translations differ, with some saying she touched the hem of Jesus' garment and some saying the fringe. I prefer thinking that she touched the fringe because if she did, I think it means that she touched the tassels hanging down from Jesus' own prayer shawl. First, it's interesting that Jesus was wearing his prayer shawl, a sign of his complete devotion and faith in God. More, the woman knew that that symbol of faith was the right place to connect with the holiness of Jesus. The clothing connection to God in Jesus became the healing connection for her. Their mutual faith in God was connected through the prayer shawl. Hope is not passive and meek. We don't just hope for God's kingdom among us. We are to join in building it too. Like prayer shawls did then, this hope helps us know who we are and reminds us of who we should be. Thanks for sharing these moments with me, and remember to let this day belong to God.